You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I think for the most part, Syracuse football's coaching staff has done a very, very good job through 6 games of the season. But that doesn't mean that they are perfect, okay? They are not perfect, and that's okay. This is a brand new coaching staff. Not that Jeff Nixon is new to being an offensive coordinator, not that Elijah Robinson is new to being a defensive coordinator, but the head coach in Fran Brown is new to being a head coach. So overall, the staff in general is brand new. And so you would expect that there would be some growing pains. And once again, I pointed out the good of the coaching staff. I think the clock management has been really good through 6 games. I think finding ways to win in the face of adversity is really good as well. But this episode is about improvement. So where can the Syracuse coaching staff improve? And I think the number one way they can improve is by learning from the Stanford loss. To quote one of my favorite head coaches across any sport of all time, I am a Florida Panthers fan. Their head coach is Paul Maurice, and he said last year during the Stanley Cup final that you either win or you learn, right? You win the game, great. If you lose the game, well, you can learn a lot from a loss. And I think this Syracuse coaching staff can really learn from that Stanford loss, because let's set the scene of that game, all right? Syracuse was coming off a bye week. They were 2-0. They got a big ranked win over Georgia Tech, and they were feeling good about themselves. I was feeling good about them. We were all feeling really good about Syracuse football through 2 games, and then they fell flat against Stanford. They just did not come out ready to play. It's not that the effort wasn't there. The effort was there. They were flat. They didn't have it at the beginning of that game, and it forced them to play catch up for the entirety of the game, right? Remember that? They didn't come out ready to play. They fell behind 10-0 relatively quickly. Wasn't very good. And there was really no excuse to it, because, again, Stanford was also coming off a bye week. So you can't say that, Syracuse was out of rhythm and Stanford was in rhythm by playing the previous week. Nope. Both were coming off a bye week, and Stanford was the team that had to travel. Stanford had to travel all the way from California to Syracuse. Remember how everyone made a big deal about, oh my goodness, the ACC going to California. I mean, my goodness, what are these athletes going to do? How are they going to be able to survive a plane ride, right? They had to travel. There was no excuse in that game for Syracuse in that one, and they fell flat, and it cost them. Well, how do you learn from it, right? Let's think about the scenario that we're in right now. How about that? You win or you learn, right? This week, Syracuse football is on a bye. I think we'd all agree that we're feeling pretty good about the team, and they probably should be feeling pretty good about themselves. They've certainly recovered from the Stanford loss by winning 3 straight, getting another ranked win over UNLV, getting a conference win over NC State on the road, a game that they would normally lose, but they found a way to win. I think both games in past years they would probably lose, but they found a way to win against UNLV and against NC State. The other win was against Holy Cross. It's Holy Cross. So they're feeling good about themselves. Well, now they got Pitt. They got Pitt next week. This time it's going to be on the road. Pitt is also going to be coming off a bye. So the question is Syracuse going to come out better against Pitt than they did against Stanford? And maybe in that Stanford game, they took them for granted. They were feeling so good about themselves, and they took Stanford for granted because they're not a very good team. Stanford's not that good. Ever since then, I don't even know if they've won a game. Well, they can't underestimate Pitt. That's the good news, because Pitt is a ranked team, and they're going on the road facing one of the better passing attacks in the country. They got to be ready for that one. Once again, you win or you learn, and hopefully the coaching staff has Syracuse ready to play post-bye week against Pitt. Hopefully they do. Let's get off to a 14-0 start like they did against UNLV. That would be great. That would be terrific, right? Instead of falling flat on our face in the beginning like what happened against Stanford, okay? So that's where they can improve. Post-bye week, let's see how they respond, feeling good about themselves against Pitt, all right? A good team on the road. Number 2, defensive scheming in my mind can improve a little bit. Okay. I'm kind of tired of the rushing 3 and dropping 8. I don't know about you guys. I think they got to kind of get rid of it because they run it far too often. There are scenarios where it's okay to rush 3 and drop 8, in my opinion. If it's a Hail Mary situation, right? If it's 3rd and 4th and forever. So I'm talking if it's like 3rd and 26 or 4th and 26, whatever it is, like rush 3, drop 8, play the sticks, right? Play that line to gain. Don't let anyone behind you there. That's okay. I get that. That's the proper times to do it. But too often times they play it in normal down situations, like a 3rd and 9, they'll rush 3 and drop 8. And aside from it working against UNLV in overtime, that one play, it doesn't really work. That's just the reality of it. A couple of reasons why I want them to stop this and at least rush 4 and drop 7 into coverage. Number one, it's going to hurt the pass rush. You're only rushing with 3 guys. There's 5 offensive linemen on the other side. It's going to hurt the pass rush for the most part. Very hard to generate pressure when you're rushing only 3 guys. That's going to also hurt the secondary, right? Because Syracuse doesn't have the Legion of Boom back there. They don't. I don't think their corners are terrible, but they don't have the Legion of Boom back there. Help them out a little bit. Get a little bit more of a pass rush. And by that, I mean, don't just rush 3 guys. I think getting Marlowe Wax back is, again, it's going to help them because maybe Fadil Diggs can rush the passer more, but you get the idea. And we saw this bite Syracuse in the you-know-what against Stanford on that 4th and 9 play where they rush 3, they drop 8, they leave Alec Iomanner one-on-one on that 4th and 9. They get no pressure. Ashton Daniels makes a perfect back shoulder throw to Iomanner, and they made the catch. They got the first down. They won the game. Clarence Lewis, the corner, he had pretty good coverage on Iomanner on that one, but it was a perfect throw, perfect back shoulder. He was open, and they converted. Going forward against, again, teams like Pitt and teams like Miami, if you rush 3 and you drop 8 against Eli Holstein or Cam Ward and you give them all sorts of time to throw the football, they're going to pick you apart. You got to be able to do more than rushing 3 and dropping 8 unless it's an extreme circumstance like 3rd and 4th and forever, like 3rd and 25, 4th and 25. You get the idea. So let's hope that they steer away from the rushing 3 and dropping 8 on defense. All right. Number 3, not as much of an issue this year, but hey, we can still clean up the penalties a little. It's definitely better. It's better than in prior years. The numbers back it up. Syracuse is currently only bottom half in the country in penalties per game at 6.6. And the reason why I say only bottom half is because under Dino Babers, if they were bottom half in the country in penalties per game, that would be an amazing year for Dino Babers. Last year, for what it's worth, they were bottom 10 in the country in penalties per game. I believe it was 7.3. So the staff has done a good job of shaving a lot of penalty, almost a penalty per game off, but still 6.6, bottom half in the country. Let's improve that, right? We saw, again, I'm going to reference that Stanford game a lot because they lost against Stanford. And we saw on Stanford's, I believe, their first touchdown drive, they got good field position after an unnecessary roughness on Aronde Gadsden on a punt. That wasn't good. And then it appeared that Syracuse was going to get off the field on 3rd down, but they called a roughing the passer. Now, it was a kind of a controversial roughing the passer, but they called it. Don't leave it in the hands of the officials, I guess. I don't know. But regardless, got to clean up the penalties just a little bit more. All right. 6.6. It's not terrible, but penalties can bite you in the you-know-what if you are not careful. It's definitely an improvement over the Dino Babers teams, but it can still be better. It's not like we're setting a high bar here with the Dino Babers and penalties. Sorry to rag on Dino Babers a lot. He was a good person, good guy, but it was frequently an issue with Syracuse football and penalties under Dino Babers.